Welcome to the Voices in Recovery podcast. Voices in Recovery is produced by Freedom's Path Recovery Society, a registered Canadian charity. If you enjoy the podcast, please consider a donation to Freedom's Path Recovery Society. All donations go directly to assisting Freedom's Path in providing their services free of charge and helps us keep the podcast going. We are grateful for any and all donations. This podcast discusses difficult topics such as childhood abuse, drug and alcohol use, sexuality and sexualized trauma, and more. If you are under the age of 18, please speak with your legal guardian prior to listening. The opinions expressed during the podcast are those of the individual and not those of Voices in Recovery or Freedom's Path or any other organization. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed this podcast.
This podcast is being recorded on the traditional land of the Blackfoot Confederacy. This consists of the Kainai, Piikani, Siksika, and the Blackfeet in the U.S. We acknowledge the Stoney Nakoda, which consists of the Bearspaw, Morley, and Chiniki. We acknowledge the Tsuut'ina Huardene and the Métis, Inuit, status and non-status from all of Turtle Island, and those who are visiting. We are all treaty people.
John, I want to thank you, man, for coming on, and I really do love your nickname, Hugger. I think it's funny because we always tease. I'm like a big AA, or I'm a fan of. I that's my fellowship. I mean, that's part of what I do to recover. It's not the only thing I do, but we always joke about like NAers, right? Because NAers hug all the time and we shake hands, right? Like, I think what we're starting to see though is we hug more often now because I see more of us hugging. Yeah.
True story. And I got my start in AA, and I'll get back to that in a minute, but since we brought up my nickname, let's explain where the Hugger John comes from. My past is hard: gangs, streets, LA, New York, Miami, ugly places, and doing ugly things. So I went from Thugger John to Hugger John, and what got me to be a hugger is I went to a meeting to take a friend to a meeting because I hadn't been to one in a long time, and my friend just got their kid back, got out of jail, got all their everything going good, and then they relapsed. And I was like, look, I will let you crash on my couch if you go to a meeting with me. Yeah. And the closest meeting I could find was an NA meeting. Well, little did I know it was my higher power guiding me there, you know, under the pretense I'm helping somebody else.
Well, so and your higher power might have been in the form of somebody else.
Oh, right. So I go to this meeting, and I had learned over the years to hate me a whole bunch. So I call it the hate me club, the shitty committee between my ears, the stinking thinking, whatever you want to call it. And you know, I not that long before tried to hang myself, broke my neck in 3 places. And actually, I'm jumping all over the place. Sorry. Anyway, where my name Hugger John comes from is I went in that meeting, and like 4 or 5 people instantly came up. It was like you said, an NA meeting, and gave me a hug. But 2 of them, and I never forgot their name. But again, for autonomy, I won't share them.
No problem.
I could tell they meant those hugs. I could feel it. You know what I mean? You could feel it. And they said, keep coming back. You know, the big thing you hear in NA. And for me, the person that hates me, which is me, I'm the captain of the Hate Me Club, the Hate Me Tribe I started, to feel wanted and actually a little bit of love from somewhere. I was like, oh shit, I'll be back tomorrow. You know, because I wanted to feel that want tomorrow. And that person that I took there to that meeting disappeared after having to go to the meeting, and I've never seen him again. Yeah. But funny how I've not missed a meeting except one day in the last 3 years of my recovery because of that. Yeah. And it's the hugs that got me to come back. So I will hug the shit out of everybody that comes through the door. I will.
Dude, the way you describe that, it should make sense to everyone, even if you've never heard of the 12 steps, right? Like that's powerful stuff, man. Like being like that gentle, loving, non-judgmental hug and touch, right? Like it is that something like you're describing. I've never experienced it before I came in. Right? Like I never experienced that kind of free-flowing love between everyone. Like not just the old women and men stuff, but like everyone. That's cool, man.
A spooning hug without the spooning.
Yeah, that's right, man.
But
So,
no, and I could tell they meant it. Like I felt it, and their words, their look in my eyes, like, please keep coming back, or please come back. They probably both said one, and one said the other. But all right, well, I'm going to go to this. I'm going to try my best to go with my experience, strength, and hope, and start from the beginning. But I am bipolar due to a lot of life's happening, so I might jump around a little. But I will do my best to go from a beginning to end by the end of this podcast.
There's absolutely no need to be anything but what you are, my friend, because you're amongst friends here. Yep. Right
and,
on, brother.
Web hugs. Might as well start with that. Web hugs.
Okay, I'll give you a web hug, man. Right on.
Right on. So to be frank, my start in learning about addiction came before I was born. My brother, who's 3 years older than me, his dad, we have the same mom, different dad. His dad was a detective and a raging alcoholic. And when I say raging, I mean his addiction was rage. And he was an alcoholic, which was his other addiction. He would beat my mom's stomach and say, I'm going to kill this baby inside you. You're not going to have it. You're not going to have my baby. And so my brother came out disabled. So the second I was born, I was the older brother to the 3 year older than me brother. And in school and stuff, other kids would because he wasn't even supposed to live. He had water on the brain, and you're talking 1966, before they had computers and all that. But a miracle happened, and it leaked off. But he still, he still has mental issues. I guide over him to this day, actually. He would go down the street and go, and kids would spit on him from his grade and push him around. And I learned to fight at a very, very early age, because that's my brother.
Yeah,
you know what I
man,
mean?
that's too bad.
I learned to fight bigger kids.
Of
And I'm
course.
already very short. I'm like 5'3" right now, and I'm in my 50s. So I learned the hard way to the coming uppins and stuff. But my point being, I learned when I was born that there was rage also from my mother. I was the instant black sheep, because I guess due to my birth, from what she told me, my dad got rid of her. I wish you were never born. You were a mistake. I wish I never had you. And there was usually some curse words involved in there too, you're a fucking piece of shit, things like that. And she would physically beat the living crap out of me. And she had, like I said, moved to Canada and married a Canadian to get away from my brother's dad and escape him. She changed her name, changed our literal countries, and we got social insurance numbers and all that. And the abuse was so bad that at the age of 7.5, 8, and the wonderful thing about my a lot of parts of my story, they're easily verifiable, because when police are involved, there's a record. You know what I mean? There's documentation and blah blah blah. Well, anyways, by the age of 8, I ran 30 miles in the Canadian woods with another kid, and literally through the woods. Didn't go on roads. I was too scared that we would get caught, and so was he. He came from abusive home too, and we ran from Cranbrook to Kimberley, and got caught there because we had a fire, and really we were maintaining the fire. It wasn't getting out anywhere, but somebody saw us that owned property, and of course we were little kids, so we were a little scared, and we wanted to be semi close to man. So they saw us and came out and had a talk with us. And he actually told us he had ran away when he was young too. And he married his nurse or whatever, which happened to be the lady that was with them. Wow. And they swore they'd protect us. And the next thing we know, the cops are there picking us up and taking us home. And at that juncture, I was too scared to tell the cops what was going on at home. So I said, oh, my mom just spanks me hard.
Oh, yeah.
Well, as luck would have it, my mom was super abusive and super physically abusive. I've got over probably 400 to 600 scars on my body, physical viewable scars on my body from the abuse, not including the mental and the psychological.
I'm sorry, dude.
So so when we get home, he tells, and this is what my mom told me after he left, maybe you should be more stern with him. So that was the first time I got to see blood hit walls from the bed from what my mother abused me with, and she was a rageaholic. So when I say early on, I was introduced to addiction of so many different forms. She used to take when I was a kid, which is 50 some years ago. They had bike chains with plastic wrap around the chain. Real thick plastic wrap. Well, she would take one of those that had a gouge in it that was broken and hit me with that, and it would take chunks out of my flesh. And that was one of the abuse. And I kept complaining at school, and the other kids would even tell the teachers. And this is while we're still in Canada. I'm like 8, 9 years old. I'm first grade, second grade. But anyway, the kids would even say to the teacher, "You got it." Nobody would ever look. So finally, my mom moves back to America, and I think I'm 8.5. It was the year of Mount St. Helens, 1980. So maybe I'm 9 or 10. But anyway, we moved back to America, and I had started smoking pot at 9 years old. That was where my addiction started kicking in, because I just was tired of it. And the first time I got high, I was addicted right there. It was an escape from reality, a numbing agent. I don't know if it was 2 months later that I tried my first suicide attempt. And I came so close that I ended up 3 weeks in the Sacred Heart mental ward part of the Sacred Heart Hospital. Then they sent me to a kids special for kids psychological evaluation, Mid-Columbia and Tri-Cities, Washington, and they evaluated me and said I was sane. But that I came out all right. Well, I went from there to foster care. And in foster care, my first foster home, I got to experience physical and mental abuse there too. So of course I ran away. I'm 9 or 10 years old, and I don't want it. I'm so tired of being a victim, and as a child there's not much you can do.
There, and of course
anytime I can get a hold of pot, and back then pot was still really prevalent in Washington. A lot of people don't realize that my whole life I've been able to find pot really easy. It's whatever, the gateway drug or whatever they want to call it, alcohol. And so my second foster home, same thing, a different type of abuse, different people. So I ran from that one. And my third foster home, I ran from that one. They actually, I lied. They asked me about brushing my teeth, and I said I did when I didn't. And I guess, I was a kid. They could see that obviously my teeth were all gooey. I didn't brush them. So one of them held me down in the bathroom while the other one rammed a toothbrush in my mouth and gave me blisters all through my mouth. So at that juncture was my first time running out of state. And I went from Washington to Idaho. I literally hitchhiked. I was trying to find something different. And in the meantime, don't get me wrong, when I could find pot, I was smoking it. And my suicide attempt was actually a bunch of my mom's pills. She had all sorts of pills, and I was a little kid. I didn't know. I just had heard from enough people that if you pop them, that's a way to die or the way to end it. And so anyway, by the age of 13, they have me in my first boys ranch, and that one made national news. It was called J Bar D, and I'm not afraid of saying this name because they don't exist anymore, but you can Google them. J Bar D Boys Ranch. That was actually about 30 miles from where I am now. Weird how the world works.
That weird.
Got shut down. Yeah. It got shut down for all sorts of abuse. I got to see sex with animals. Am I free to talk as I'm talking? All right, because I'm just.
Of course you are, man.
Not real descriptive, but I got to see bestiality. I got to be abused many different ways, and they would call open season on the kids, the staff would, and what that meant is all the other kids could throw punches, kicks, rocks, bricks, boots. I don't know why, but I just remember that quite a bit, were a major thing that people would take off and throw at them until the staff would say close season. And again, this is verifiable in a Google search. As a matter of fact, a big lawsuit's coming up that I'm a class action part of regarding that abuse that many years ago, because some abuse, like there is no statute of limitations on it.
Of course not. Yeah.
I think they should pay. I wasn't going to be part of it, but the more I thought about it, is all those other kids that went through what I went through, they should be held accountable, and they should be made to pay. And if you actually research it,
they absolutely should, man.
The abuse was so bad that one of the cops, when it was caught that he was in on it, the mayor was in on it, Jim West, and covering it up. I mean, covering up the abuse so it could continue, because there was a whole lot of sexual abuse through a few group homes, and there was a little pedophile ring of let's get these kids and take them camping or whatever it was. There was just, you name it, it was done. And one of the cops,
it was everywhere back then, hey?
Oh yeah, and that's here in this area that I'm at now. And one of the cops, when it came out, committed suicide before, because once his family found out and stuff, he didn't want, he knew he was done. He was done. The cover up was whatever, and that was at the age of 13. By the age of 16, I had been in another boys' ranch or two, and then just experienced abuse, from, and I got to give a little background here. Some of the abuse I went through was because I was the minority. If you're really, really young and you go up for adoption or in foster care, you have a chance of getting adopted. You have a chance of getting a real home that really wants you around, that isn't there for that foster paycheck. I was at the age that fuck that, nobody wanted me. And so when I was in these group homes, and I'm not racist in any way or form, I'm just stating facts. I love everybody. I think everybody's huggable and worthy of a hug. But there was predominantly dark skin or Hispanic, and groups of them in the group homes. So I was the odd man out, and I got to feel reverse racism.
Well, I'm not surprised that there was an over misrepresentation of people of color, right? Like in foster care. That's not surprising to me, because up here in Canada, it's the same way. There's a misrepresentation in terms of Indigenous kids and kids of color, right? People of color as opposed to white kids. Yeah.
Well, and the younger have a chance of getting adopted or a long permanent foster family. The older, they come with too many baggage, trouble, and of course I was severely abused, so I was a troubled child. I'm not going to say I was perfect. I stole, I did whatever it was, because I was on the streets quite often. I didn't want to be in the homes that were abusing me, so I would and
that kind of victimization leads to acting out every time. Yeah.
And I skipped over a part. I'm sorry. Before I left Canada, I was abused sexually by two girls when I was in diapers, and I remember it because they were touching my junk and laughing and giggling. And then when we moved to Cranbrook, I was well, I want to say this as nice as possible. I was sexually assaulted so terribly bad on our church property by a kid from our school, and our school was from preschool through high school. It was one school. Cranbrook's a small town called Central. But the abuse was so bad that the police brought the yearbook to me. I pointed the kid out and never saw him again. So obviously, if I never saw him again, it was pretty. I don't want to get too descriptive, because I don't want to get to crying and all out of my head. But so I
because some of those details aren't important anyway for us to talk about, right?
Oh, right. But the fact that it happened, so other people. Oh, and I'm so sorry. What I wanted to say at the very start of this podcast is to anybody that hears this, I hope that you hear something that helps you in your recovery from whatever your journey was, and helps you stay clean and get off or stay off drugs. You have no idea. And that's why I'm sharing a lot of my, I'm scared and nervous right now, but I know from my experience of being just barely 3 years clean now, that my story can help somebody else say, hey, it's okay if I tell what happened to me. It's okay if I share it and unburden some of this pent down, kept behind the dark closets of our mind burdens. So let me say that. And
if you don't mind letting me say that, John, like, I've known you for 25 minutes, and I think your nickname is 100% proper. I want to give you a hug so bad, dude. Like it's like Anyway, I won't interrupt you again. Please continue.
Oh no, right. And again, I'm new to podcasts. I'm sure there's points where you will want to comment, and it'll help me, believe it or not, to cycle through all the scatter that I got, because again, we're going through 50 years of trauma in this time, and I'm so grateful that you give me plenty of time, so I will be able to jump back and forth a little bit. And I'm super grateful to finally be able to tell my story in a recovery platform of some sort, not just partial and jam it into 5 minutes because I'm a speaker, or 20 minutes because I'm a speaker. I literally get to open up and share a lot of this. And I'm glad
I appreciate your vulnerability, John.
Oh, thank you so much. And really, if you ever get a hug from me, you'll know without a question that you'll feel it.
Well, something like that might go on my bucket list by the end of tonight. Right.
But so I truly hope that if anybody listens to this, that somehow it inspires them to stay clean or come clean to their therapist about some of the damage they went through, because trust me, I went through it all, and if it wasn't that kind of bad abuse as a kid, I was scared of the dark. Why would I run 30 miles through the woods in the Canadian woods following railroad tracks if it wasn't bad abuse, and be ready to deal with bears or whatever? I mean, I was a kid with his own natural, normal, common sense fears, I guess you could say, because I was a tiny little guy and I probably would have been good bear fodder. But
me too. So, most of us are.
Going through the foster care system, the last home I was telling you about, there was just that incredible abuse, and then the next one, there was just so much abuse, I got tired of it. And once I was labeled a runner, most foster families didn't want me, and to give an example of how psychotic my mother was, I'm going to give a couple of my favorite ones, or at least it's not really my favorite, I shouldn't say it in that context, but it's a good example of psychotic. Two of them. One, I would accidentally break a dish and get the fuck beat out of me. And when I say the fuck beat out of me, I mean the fuck beat out of me. My mom used to, when I was in diapers, like you bowl, how you take 3 steps and you throw the ball? Well, she would take 3 steps and punch me in my diaphragm. I actually have a permanent scar thing on my diaphragm. It's a bubble that nobody else has to this day. And it would, every time it would knock the wind out of me. I mean, I was in diapers, and it was even just after diapers, but that's my first, and she would do that kind of stuff to me when I broke a dish. But the very next time I'd be crying and all balled up and scared shitless, that I broke whatever it was. And she'd come up to me and be like, "Why are you scared? It was an honest accident, people have accidents. I'm not going to hurt you." And she would call me baby Johnny or Johnny, even, she wouldn't say son so much. But anyway, so my other favorite example is my mom was so messed up that I would be at the window looking at her face expression and aura in the car when she got home. Do I need to be downstairs out of the way in my room? Or can I be out of my room and be okay? And I actually, I forgot to mention this part. The stress was so bad, I got eczema where your feet crack. And they would crack so bad that I had to wear special socks, because if I didn't, the socks would get caught in those cracks that were so deep, like literally some of them to the bone. And then the pus would dry and I wouldn't be able to pull the socks off without soaking them off. And I also got what are called stomach migraines. A lot of people haven't heard of those.
I've never heard of that.
That's right. That's where your stomach just clenches, so much tension. All you can do, it's like and I'd get regular migraines too, by the way, but I would roll on the ground and moan and cry and hurt just so bad. And when I say a head migraine, I would be throwing up, sweating, coughing, and just crying. That's all I could do. They hurt so bad. So, but anyway, so I this one time I was sitting there at the window and she looked like I was okay. So I went to the top of the stairs, because she'd come in the door and there was stairway downstairs to the basement and then a stairway upstairs. There was no floor right where the door was. And she shut the door and looked at me and said, "Did you take such and such out of my purse?" And instantly my hi mommy went to, "Oh, fuck." Because I knew something's going to happen. And I said, "No," because I hadn't. I said, no, mommy, I didn't. She comes up about 3 steps and her face turns a little more to that rage face where I know, all right, things are not going good.
Yeah.
Did you take such and such out of my purse? And now I'm getting really scared. And I'm like, no, mommy, I didn't. And then she comes up the last few steps and gives me that look like, it's the look I knew. I'm getting the fuck beat out of me. There's no question. Did you take such and such out of my purse? Well, I started crying really hard and said, even though I didn't, I started crying super hard and said, oh, okay, mom, I did. Yeah, I did. And then all of a sudden her demeanor changed to the most calmest, whatever. And she goes, now, Johnny, I want to know the truth. Did you take such and such out of my purse? And she said it in such a kind way. I was bawling really hard. And I said, no, mommy, really, I didn't. She goes, I know, and walked off.
Oh, Jesus, man.
So she proved to herself that she was, a rageaholic or whatever, a psychotic, that she was abusing me till I said what she wanted to hear rather than the truth.
Damn, dude.
Yeah. And well,
I can only imagine what your anxiety was like, man, because right now I have a knot in my gut for you. Like, as you're telling the story, like, that's powerful shit, man. Unbelievable.
Yeah, me too. I'm actually, I'm not going to lie. You can feel it probably through the screen when I relive this and I say this stuff, she's dead now and God rest her soul. I love my mother. As fucked up as that may sound, by the time I'm done telling some of the things she did, she was my mother. Man.
She was your mom,
Yeah, she was my mother. And another example, I came home from a home visit. I forgot about this one. I came home for a home visit from foster care, and she had made these toothpick crosses with yarn on them as a loop to go as ornaments on the Christmas tree. Well, she got me Captain Kirk and Dr. Spock dolls and stuff. And so I used those crosses as swords. They look like swords to me. For my dolls, and I broke one, and she came in and started doing her extreme abuse, beating the living fuck out of me so bad. You're a Jesus hater, you hate God. And again, I never should have had you know that. And she abused me so bad, I literally, in December, because it's Christmas time, in Spokane, Washington, where back then the snow was pretty deep, I literally ran out the door and hid in the doghouse where she couldn't get to me. She couldn't get in the hole to the doghouse. She was too big. And that's another example of the abuse and the psychological, like, I my higher power, I choose to call God, and I believe in God very much, even though I, went through that kind of abuse. And she was also a Sunday school teacher. But anyway, so.
Man, that's nasty.
Yeah, well, but it gives more background of why I chose drugs to numb the sexual abuse, the physical abuse. She didn't do any physical sexual abuse, but she did mental sexual abuse. And I'm not going to get into exactly what she said and how she said it, but that was there. She never physically inappropriately touched me in my memory to any, but she did verbally fuck my head up with that kind of stuff. And so I start running away. And I'm obviously already doing pot. I've done coke and acid by now too. At 13, I remember a bunch of us from our group home went to this store that we knew there was only one person working at, and there was no cameras back then. Again, this is, God, if I'm 52 now, 40 years ago, basically. And we knew that one person had to take the garbage out. So we all sat there with one of us spying her. It was a lady, actually. And the second she opened the one door, we opened the other door. So they both ding at the same time, because it was like a flying J or whatever. And 6 of us ran in and grabbed 2 12-packs each and ran out and laughed because she couldn't do shit. What is she going to run out after us, which it's not funny, but I'm just saying it was the adrenaline, the kid shit. And we ran through a field to our group home, which was called Alpha House, and that was all shut down for real bad things happening. And I always got the winners, and so and I'm glad.
I think it also speaks to what the state of support was like back then, right? Like it was that bad everywhere, I think, right?
Oh yeah, and I'm glad you said the support part. I might have forgot part of this story. So anyway, we get back, get drunk. I had snorted no-dos that night, And the monitoring of us kids was so horrible. It was actually an ex Air Force base, and they had the old-fashioned pump gas thing for airplanes. There was no longer gas that would pump out of it, but the pump would work, and we'd light lighters and make it like a flamethrower. And you're talking, well, we also would huff the gas or whatever.
Yeah.
And the monitoring of the kids was just so not right. It wasn't right. They would let the kids fight, even kind of instigate it and have everybody stand around while they fought. And I remember how back asswards it was too. One time, this really big biker lady happened to be the only staff there, and this kid had stole my comics and he was carrying them. And so we kind of got in a little physical altercation. I wasn't letting him take my comics. And so I flipped him over me and he hit the ground. And the next thing I know, the one staff member's got me in a full Nelson and he punches me in the face. She doesn't let me go. She tells him to stop. And of course, I had to be dumb enough to call him a pussy for hitting me while I was being held. Hopefully I'm free to speak. Sorry, I don't mean to.
It's all good.
Say, but
this episode is going to get an extra warning for everybody. It's all good, man. It's important to make sure that people are ready to hear it, though, right?
Right. And I'm being honest. You know what I mean? 100%. I'm not trying to hide, the verbiage or whatever. So a lot of people have heard that word before. Trust me.
It's true.
So
yeah.
So he hits me again, and I get madder because she's holding me and I'm screaming, let me go, whatever. This to me, it was very highly unfair. So I call him that P word again. And then he hits me as hard as he can, puts my tooth through my lip. I ended up having to get stitches over it and everything. And I still had to call him that word. I was like, I was at that point, by then I had been abused so much. Which makes me want to back up to my mother, how psychotic she could be. One time, not long after I had ran away to to Kimberly from Cranbrook, she came home and she just started laying into me. I can't remember what, and I was a kid. Maybe I stole some change out of her purse or whatever. I might have done something wrong, but she started beating me with that one belt I told you about. Well, it's not really a belt. It was a tube of plastic with the tear in it. And I don't know why, but I was looking at her face expression and I started laughing. And her face expression got worse and she started hitting me worse. I laughed harder. It was that point that I had been abused and the pain was so incredible spiritually and physically that I hit that threshold. And the harder her face got, and I probably should have never looked at her in the first place. I don't know why it was funny to me, but I laughed to where she finally threw the belt down and left. And then I started crying because I thought I was going to die. I thought, I was done and I shouldn't laugh about it, but whatever. I started crying.
You survived it. You're allowed to laugh, man.
Yeah. And then when she came back in, I don't know why she was so understanding about it. Maybe that she knew that I was going to reach that threshold. She was also very badly abused as a child too. That doesn't make what she did right.
No, but it doesn't surprise me. Yeah,
we're supposed to break the cycle, and I was blessed enough to do with my kids. And
right on, man.
But anyways, so I start running away. So, like I said, I'll skip around, but I wanted to give you a little more backstory on my mother and how there was so much trauma and psychological trauma that no wonder I as I look back on it and reflect now, I took to drugs and loved the escape. And the J. Bardee Boys Ranch they put me in that I was telling you about earlier, I kind of became a drug kingpin there. Which, and I'm not trying to glorify it. Let me put it in a proper perspective. We would work and we'd get money in what's called a receipt that we could turn in every Friday to get our cash. Well, I got a hold of a little pot and I also worked my butt off and got a bunch of my receipts because the other kids weren't ready to work like I was. I wanted my money. And that was one thing I got to say to my mom. She put a good work ethic into me. I learned to do things like chop wood and pull weeds and things at a very, very early age. And she was smart. She would fix our car herself. And I learned that there's not much you can't do, even if you're a single person on your own. If you can read it in a book, you can do it basically.
Yeah, gotcha.
So I took my pot and I bought other kids receipts because they allowed that. So you got $1 an hour. I would buy a 3-hour receipt for a couple of tokes, and so and then when I got that good money the first couple of times, I saved mine. And I waited till the middle of the week and I bought people tobacco. I'd buy them a 68-cent, I'm dating myself here, but top was like 68 cents, a bag of top or bugler back then. And I would trade that for a $3 receipt. So before you knew it, I was paying the biggest kids there to protect me so I didn't get bullied anymore. I didn't get beat up anymore. And I'm glad that God put, as screwed up as that may sound, I'm glad God gave me a brain to where I found a way to be protected, because abuse just, it got old.
Oh man, did it ever.
So yeah, you name it. It's been done to me horribly. And there's tons of documentation about it throughout my life. There's actually, again, the Jay Bardee deal made national news. Alpha House made local news. And yeah, there's other things I'll get into later. So anyway, by 13, I had already done cocaine, acid, pot, and by 16, when I got out of Job Corps, I went to Job Corps because I didn't like the one where like I said, there was other ethnic backgrounds, and I was the odd man out, and they were all abusing me, spitting on me, pushing me around, and just the abuse from other kids. It was too much for me.
Yeah,
and I remember,
no doubt.
I remember the staff there. I'm sorry, I'm jumping around. You had brought up the part about the staff being true support or doing the job they're supposed to do. Well, this kid snitched on us for passing a bottle of Bacardi 151 over the fence. The staff came out and said, he snitched on you, take it farther down the fence and pass it over.
Wow.
When they should have said, no, you shouldn't be drinking. They let us skip school every day. We'd say, fuck you. And they wouldn't do nothing about it. Excuse my French, but, and we'd play the video games they had there, or the pool, or the foosball or whatever. So there should have been more accountability. They should have been more structure, and they should have, but God,
I think all they really had to do was give a shit, and then things would have changed.
Yes.
If they would have just gave a shit, right?
Yeah. And when I look back on it, that's another reason why I want anybody that listens to this podcast to hear me tell them, whether I've met you, I love you, you're valid. If you went through any type of abuse, I for surely can relate. And I truly hope that this podcast helps you in your recovery journey. And you deserve hugs, and you deserve to be loved just because you're you. No other fucking reason. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. And now I know
thanks, John.
I knew I'd probably cry at some point, but
that's okay, man.
So many children today, like I saw something a few years ago about I want to say it was 700,000 unaccounted for foster kids. Like, that's disgusting.
Yeah, man.
That's just sad. And foster care is not what it's cracked up to be.
It's disgusting how we have said that we care about children, but we have proven time and time again that our society does not care about children, right? The lip service they pay to it is basically lip service and nothing more, right?
Right.
Because like you said, there are so many unaccounted children. There are so many dead children from these schools, whether they're residential schools or schools for foster homes down in the States, foster homes up here. These things are notoriously difficult to live in those environments, right? It's notoriously difficult because of the abuse, right?
And the not caring, or you get somebody in charge that has friends. It's like a pedophile ring, and they end up being the other staff members, and they cover each other's back. And now that I'm on this, I know that there's going to be plenty of adults that were children that went through this as well that listen, I hope. They need to hear that it's not good out there, and that something should be done about it. The types of abuse that happens in there, and another thing I didn't like, and again, there's so much proof of everything I say. I was raised by the state. Again, they're doing a motion for discovery or whatever. through the lawsuit that's happening with my name attached to it, to Washington State, because I forgot to mention this part, I think, but I became a ward of the state. The state was my legal guardian, my legal parents. So anytime something happens, there's triplicate in paperwork about it. Well, what I got to start hating is if I got sexually molested, I had to tell my counselor about it. I had to tell my therapist about it. I had to tell my psychiatrist about it. I had to tell my caseworker about it. And if cops were involved, I had to tell the cops about it. And you're reliving it each time. They got to find another pattern for these children rather than make them go over it and over it and over it.
Yeah.
I firmly feel there's got to be a way where somebody goes, hey, that is a little fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
The kid went through the damage. Let them tell the story once and record it if you got it.
Yeah.
But leave the child alone after that. Don't make him relive it. And I got to be fair. As I got a little older, from not just 9, but in the 13 and 14, when that kind of stuff happened, some of them, it felt like they were enjoying the story and they were getting off on the story themselves. And we know that's prevalent, in every field, there's sick people.
You got that right, man.
People. Yeah. And so anyway, I get more and more into drugs. And at 16, I was just so tired of it. I ran away. Oh yeah, when I got out of Job Corps, this is another wonderful thing about the state taking care of me. I got my GED while I was there. I didn't finish getting a culinary arts degree, but I had plenty of training. So since I got my GED, I'm 16 and I can start work, right? Well, since I'm the state's parents, instead of the $3.35 minimum wage an hour at the time, they make me work whatever job I get. It has to be $1 an hour. So I'm like, okay, I thought that was pretty unfair, but whatever. I wanted to get out of the home they put me in, because the home they put me in, and again, there's records of this, they can't deny it. Out of Job Corps was a home where every single kid there killed a parent or another human being except me. That's what they had available for me. So they put me in a home, and again, I'd have a record if I killed somebody. Yep. I've never done that kind of damage to another human being. But the
how old were you?
You want to talk about a new level of tension?
Yeah.
When I know every single kid there killed somebody.
Jesus.
No wonder I wanted to get a job. And of course, I got the kids there pot. We would be tested once a week. So we would, which was Friday, and we'd all smoke on Saturday, Sunday, Monday. And the guy there that did the test was cool and would cover it up. You know what I mean? As fucked up or not fucked up as it is, maybe he understood we needed some sort of escape.
Actually, it makes sense considering everything else you'd shared.
Right. Well, yeah.
It's not surprising. I'm surprised you haven't told us that they fed you booze too.
No.
Right?
No, they didn't feed us booze. No, and I again, I don't need to embellish any of my stories.
Of course not.
It's so real and so heavy. I've had therapists tell me they can't believe I'm as sane as I am because of the stuff I've been through. But I'm thankful I am enough to share my story. So hopefully somebody else hears it and hears that you are not alone. I've been through it too, and I pray that you get healing. And again, I hope this helps anybody that hears it in their recovery journey, whether it's from abuse, drugs, alcoholism, whatever their addictions are, whatever their ways of coping were, and whatever the abuse they went through. I hope that they get something in this podcast from the bottom of my heart that helps them progress in a healthy manner and be part of the solution in their healing. So anyway, I run from that home. Obviously, number one, they're not letting me have my money either. By the way, not only am I working for $1 an hour, but I don't get my money. They're my parents. They dictate it. They control. And so I got so tired of it. I ran away again. Oh, and they put me in what's called the CRC, Crisis Residential Center on the South Hill. And when I went from there, they wanted to put me in another group home that was just like an hour and a half to 2 hours away from Spokane, in the middle of the woods and middle of nowhere. And when I get there, it looks like this really cool place, but I'm thinking, man, if they abuse me out here, where do I got to go?
Yeah.
So I'm like, I tell them straight up, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not staying here. I have the right to choose. I had learned that much by then. I'm not, there's no way I'm staying here. Plus I had a girlfriend, being real honest, that told me she was pregnant at the time, which is its own story. But anyway, so he takes me back to Spokane and literally drops me off on a corner downtown Spokane and says, I got no other place for you. A few people got fired for that incident.
Oh, geez.
The state's my parents. They cannot do that. But they did, and my mom actually stood up and got them fired. My brother told me about it. My mom actually threw a big fit and got people fired, because if you're the parent, because you're so much better than the bad parent, that's not what you do with the child.
No,
you don't put them out in the middle of Spokane and drop them off in the early 80s or mid 80s. So I decided to run away to California for my first time. And now I'm 17, I think just before 18, I'm hanging in Hollywood, and I get to find out a whole new level of predatory stuff. And now I'm introduced to meth, which became my new favorite drug, PCP, which will scramble a brain, and acid. Like those are drugs you shouldn't put a 17-year-old on. And I have a guy, well, this happened more than once. These guys will be, hey, you want me to buy you lunch? They'll hang out at the places the kids hang out, and you'll think they're cool because the other kids will introduce you to them, but you don't know you're being groomed. You don't know you're being, lean towards some more sick, atrocious shit. And one day this guy offers me about a month's worth of pay. Minimum wage was $3.35 an hour. He offers me $400 and hands me a book that he tells me is outlawed in the USA. And it's, well, you got an editor, so if this ends up not being right, I apologize, but it's how to fist somebody.
Oh, okay.
And because I had little tiny hands.
Yeah.
And PCP, little meth, and offering me a month's wages. Needless to say, that ended up something I ended up doing. And then from there, it became peeing on people, crapping on people. The side of prostitution, a lot of people don't talk about, where there's no real sex involved. It's, well, I guess with the fisting there is, but I mean the peeing, the crapping on, things like that. So that, I'm 17, 18, and this should not happen to children. And there needs to be more done about this, but and that's hopefully what this podcast leads to. So obviously I get more and more involved in drugs. I start shooting up and using a syringe or whatever, and get involved in more gangs, worse gangs, doing really bad stuff. I was in the Gap building and left it a couple hours before its final burn down. It had burnt down 3 times, but it finally, and this is the Gap building on Hollywood Boulevard, it finally burned down so bad that they tore it down. But we had been staying in it because it was an abandoned building. And we used to make the cops have to keep buildings open, or construction companies, because the law was if somebody was sleeping in it within 7 days, this is also 40 years ago or 33 years ago or whatever, you could not tear the building down. We kept the old Levi brick building open on Hollywood Boulevard, and I think it was Hollywood and Western area, open for almost a year and a half past when they were trying to tear it down, because we kept going in there. And we called them squats back then. And what we would do is we'd go to a floor and we'd change it around, but we would kick the floor out in, say, the bathroom or one corner of the bedroom. And that way we could drop down to the next floor down. Well, the cops come in there at night with their flashlights and stuff, and even with their dogs, they couldn't come running through there because they don't know where they might fall to their literal death 2 or 3 floors. And it became a game with us. Like, it was the adrenaline rush. Get high and see if the cops could catch us. And you want to talk about an adrenaline rush, have a dog chasing you through a building where a German Shepherd. I'm just saying.
No thanks, man.
We get addicted to different things. And for us then, it was a little meth, a little adrenaline. And
I totally get it, man. Yeah, those little land sharks though, man, they're scary.
Yes. Oh, yes, they are. Yes, I'm too old now to play that crap. But just thinking about like how I'm so lucky. But obviously we'd be like tunnel rats or whatever in Vietnam. We would run around and find our own hole, drop down in it. And the dogs couldn't do it either. They can't just, because there'd be jagged wood, coming out that, well, don't get me wrong, they could, and sometimes they would, but that's why we would keep running when we dropped down to the first hole to a next hole and drop out that and then be out the back door. And are they going to spend 70 cops to roust a few vagrants out of a building? No, they're not.
I
they
sure
just
hope not.
Well, no, right. But which helped us keep it open for like literally a year and a half. Year and a half past when they were supposed to have tore it down. But it was kind of also our way of being rebellious. But so I go from there, believe it or not, I try to change my life around. I get to Orlando, Florida, and I forgot to say, I'd also, on my 18th birthday, I was at the Beverly Hills food stamp office getting on food stamps my first time, to find out that supposedly my mom had adopted me, and she told me she gave me up for adoption but readopted me and changed her mind. But anyway, so I take those food stamps and that paycheck, because they put me at a place called the Weingart, which was literally, and I'm just being demographic, explaining, but everybody in the Weingart was downtown Watts, LA. There was not a white person there.
Yep.
And I was 18 and 110 pounds, on meth at that. And I had all my food stamps. And when I got to my room that they assigned me with the key, you could see that door had been kicked in repeatedly. So I kindly took one look in the room, left, and never went back. I took my food stamps and hitchhiked up to New Orleans for Mardi Gras, and stayed at Covenant House, which was a place there. And I had and I thought it was the coolest thing back there back then, because I was 18 and there was this 60-some-year-old lady doing cocaine with me in the street. She pulled it out of her little vial, and I was sitting there panhandling, and her kids, they were probably 30, stopped and did some cocaine with me. And I'm like, wow, this is cool. So that didn't help promote me getting off drugs. But anyway, so I go from there. I run away and I end up in Buffalo, New York, at a Franciscan friar's place, which is another religious thing. And it ended up being that because I wouldn't sleep with them, I got kicked back out on the streets. It's...
Wait, are you trying to tell me that monks were trying to be naughty with children? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Yeah. I get the humor there, but yes,
yeah.
And it's sad.
It's tragic, man.
Yeah, to me, I'm still a child at 18. You know what I mean? Or whatever it was, 18, 19, 17. We're still kids. We
it didn't matter to them anyway, right? Yeah.
Oh, no. Yeah. And we could hear at nighttime, because their quarters were upstairs, we could hear some fucked up whatever it was going on up there. And that was another grooming situation. I kind of was I was led to understand what would happen when they finally called me in the room. I didn't do it, and I ended up on the streets again. And I actually, because I'd lost my ID, I ended up on Amusements of Rochester, a carnival. Going from Buffalo, New York, I went with them ended up to be Ridgeway, Pennsylvania, before I left the carnival for its own. Trust me, back then, the carnies, they had every drug you can name, and their own sick shit happened in carnivals.
Man, they were notorious. Yeah, no doubt. They were notorious for being like that subculture that was, I guess, anti-culture. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, for reals. And
you would know more of the details. I just heard the stories.
Yeah, right. Well, I know firsthand, and I got tired of that. So anyway, not long after that is when I actually get to where I try to turn my life around. I was tired of the cops fucking with me. I was tired of drugs, and I had no real record yet. All misdemeanors. I hadn't been really popped for anything big yet. So I go to a place called IST, the Institute of Security and Technology, in Miami. They had 2 in Pennsylvania and 1 in Miami, which made them at that time in 1989 the world's largest presidential bodyguarding and law enforcement academy. So I graduated top 3 and top 2 in my class, and I was trying really hard. Although, being fair, we drank and I smoked pot the whole time through because they didn't drug test us. You know, Miami, fuck, if you can't get pot, well, anyway, that's beside the point. Well, it's a fact. Come on now, Miami's a port of call, and every drug comes in there. You know, or
it's pretty notorious that's where cocaine kind of comes in, a big chunk of it, right? So
right.
That in Mexico, of course.
I graduate there and I get into security, but before long, I'm back on drugs and back in LA. And that's where I got introduced. In 1997, I got introduced to AA. A judge had seen me for enough misdemeanor drug possessions, like residue in a baggie, that he said, you're going to go to prison or you're going to do 90 and 90. I'm tired of seeing your face. So I did 90 and 90, and I actually did stay clean, pot, everything. And I did actually more than 90 and 90. I thought I was all that in a bag of chips. I did like 112 or something in 90 days. And not just AA, they have everything in LA. Cocaine Anonymous, crystal meth, CA, CMA, AA, NA. They even had Sex Anonymous there. Yeah. And so I get my chips for all that, and the judge gets off my back. And within 2 months, I was in Reno, Nevada with a needle in my arm again. You know, and then that leads all the way up to the story I was telling you. I end up going through 2 marriages, 2 divorces, and one of them happened since I've been clean. But anyway, so I go to take that girl to a meeting. I go to my first NA meeting with her. It was the hug that got me to come back. And I went every single day. I actually averaged about 4 meetings a day my first year because I liked it. I was getting hugs at all these meetings. There was true care and concern, and people like me and you that knew what it was about, knew what it's like to go through travesty and fucked up childhoods and every abuse imaginable. And so I go from sleeping under bridges with needles in my arm. I even pushed a cart for a while in LA. I was high on meth and it was my home, but I got tired of that real quick. Like, I'd rather just travel with the clothes on my back than have to push my home everywhere because I wanted a few extra items. But so I get here to Spokane. I go to NA to take my friend, and the journey this last 3 years of self-discovery, healing, and that's why I got to bring in step work. For those that do 12-step fellowships, the meeting attendance, the having a sponsor, the service commitment, in my opinion, hell yeah, that'll help you stay clean. But step work will change your fucking life. And that's just my opinion. It's what it's done for me. So I go from having a needle in my arm and living under a bridge to helping my brother, since my mom had died, and I found him again, put a 2-bedroom bathroom addition on his home and sell it for $250,000 and move up here. I wish we did have light out right now. I'd show you my driveway. It's just, it's beautiful. I got 12.5 acres. If it wasn't for recovery, I wouldn't have nothing, but I'm near the Canadian border in Colville. And it's just beautiful. I own a valley, and there's a spring-fed stream long ways through it. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself. All right, so my
wow, it sounds beautiful though, man.
It is. Yeah. Day 27 of being clean is my second divorce is finalized. And I made it through that clean. Day 30, I cut down my marijuana grow. I skipped a little bit here. I was legal because of medicinal reasons 10 years before everybody else, because medicinal was legal in the state of Washington. Now it's 15, 20 years, but whatever.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, before they made it legal for everybody, 18 and over, I was legal, and I sold my excess to the dispensaries, the medicinal dispensaries, and I grew a lot. And my belly button biological birthday just happens to be 4/20.
Oh wow!
Which is National Pot Smoker Day here.
That's pretty wild, man.
Yeah. So what are the odds? 69, the year of Woodstock.
Yeah.
And my little joke on that is, since I was born in LA, my mom probably had her legs in the back of a VW van, hiked to Sweet Jesus, and was probably on acid because I came out a little different.
Oh shit! I got a good picture of that, man.
But yeah, so yeah, and I like to throw a little humor in there because I mean it's facts, it's truth, but if you can't see the humor to somebody in recovery having a belly button birthday of a national drug day, drug use day, like
dude,
like
we're not a glum lot, bro. We're not a glum lot.
Right, not at all. And so I at day 30, I cut down my grow, and I did that on a live video because I had to keep myself accountable. I knew if I kept growing, I'm gonna smoke this shit. I knew it. So I cut down my grow, which was hard. And at the time, I donated all that was cut down and all of it to veterans through a friend that.
Right on.
And I got to be real careful how I say what I say because I don't want to.
It got to people who needed it. That's what happened.
Right. Yeah. And who I felt deserved it. And to this day, I will say that for true medicinal, not trying to be the sweet little old lady running around trying to con doctors so I can get a prescription to get high, but for those like with epilepsy that stops their seizures, true medicinal need, I am a proponent for medicinal marijuana way before the Suboxone, way before the methadone. I think they should do a lot heavier looking into that. That's just my personal opinion. And no, I do not smoke pot. I do not do CBD. For this addict, I learned that I must abstain from all mood and mind altering drugs to stay in recovery.
Right on.
And I skipped a little bit. All right. So when my first wife left me, I tried to hang myself, and because we were married for 12 years together, for 14, raised 2 beautiful kids. And none of my kids that I mention are mine biologically, but they're mine to me because I raised them from diaper to high school, basically. I tried to hang myself. I broke my neck in 3 places. They took me to a specialist here in Washington, tried to fuse it, but I did such a good job. He couldn't even get it right. And I need another surgery, but COVID hit. So that's where we're at right now. And I'm very high risk. So I'm not throwing myself in hospitals where there's a whole lot of COVID right now. But so just to show part of where the drugs had led me to, the depression, the rock bottom, and that was my rock bottom, and my second divorce was my rock bottom. So anyway, day 30 of being clean, I cut down my grow. Day 90 or 86, somewhere in there, the father figure in my life dies of colon cancer. A very ugly way to go, or prostate cancer. Sorry, very, very horrible, ugly way to go. But all that he had actually helped guide me and show me how to do the 2-bedroom bathroom addition I had mentioned earlier. For the first time, instead of saying good job, just before he died, and in a phone call with him, he said he was proud of me. And to fucking hear that, me, who, again, I was the hater of me, and to hear him say that before he died, and to hear him say that he wished he had met me sooner, because he knew a lot of my story. It was a blessing. And yes, I'm sad that he's dead, but I'm crying tears of happiness because he was proud of me before he died.
That's pretty cool.
And day 100 was my belly button birthday, so it was my gift to me to stay clean. It just happened to work out that way of my recovery and clean time this time. And I stayed in NA meetings all day wherever I could find them. And there happened to be an event that day too. I can't remember what it was. Maybe it was a Valentine's event or something, but there was an event that day. And so I got, it was movie and something. But anyway, so I stayed around NA to help me stay clean. And at 6 months, my daughter invited me to go see her wedding, to be at her wedding. I didn't get to be the best man. I didn't get to give her away, but I got to sit up front, and she stood up to the whole other side of the family. They all fucking hated me. You know, it's a fact. Oh yeah. Well, because when you get a divorce, I've yet to see one that is truly amendable, where there's not bullshit from one side or the other. And so they all hated me, and she stood up to all of them. Good tears again. she stood up to all of them and said, my dad's going to be at my wedding and nobody's going to start shit. And that's so far probably my most favorite memory, right with the dad figure in my life saying he was proud of me in my recovery. And that's one of the blessings of recovery. And to make it through the holidays, I had never made it through one holiday. Those were reasons to get high. Come on now. Oh, it's Hare Krishna Day. It's let's go party. It's Columbus Day. Let's go party. So I went to the marathon meetings. And I slept there. Literally, there's many people in my recovery circle that remember that. I slept there, and when I was awake, I tried to help chair meetings, but I participated, and that's how I made it through my first set of holidays clean, which was 2 years ago. And then I did what I did before, and I was blessed enough to actually start an NA meeting. There wasn't one in the morning in Spokane that was daily. There was one day on Saturday and one day on Sunday at 10 a.m. Well, I've also had insomnia my whole life. So not getting sleep and being up right away, getting in the shitty committee between my ears and doing that stinking thinking. I wanted a meeting. I wanted a place where I could go and sit and know I was with people where I wouldn't use and I'd be safe. And I kept mentioning that, and my friend finally goes, shut the fuck up and start one. And I was like, no, I've only got like 90 days clean. You have to have 6 months to do this or do that. You can't. And so he goes, ask your sponsor. You can at 30 days. So I asked my sponsor. My sponsor goes, yeah, you can start a meeting. So I started a meeting that happens to be called the Wake Up Recovery Meeting. Plug. And that's where I met. That's where I met our mutual friend. I don't think I have permission to say his name. I should have asked him. But anyway, the guy that introduced me to you, that's my sponsee, was at that meeting, or the night meeting. But I attend no less than 2 meetings a day. Again, when they were live, I was doing 4 a day, but now I do 2 a day average. And again, 1 day solo. And this was actually really recently. I just needed to take a breather. Have I not been to meetings in all 3 years and whatever it is, 20 days of my recovery now. For me, for this addict, I've needed to start my day with a meeting and end my day with a meeting to help me combat the shitty committee in between. And you name the service position. I don't know. You said you know about AA and whatever, but I've been I've not had a position at area besides GSR, but I've been in the activities subcommittee. I've been in the fundraising subcommittee, and I've been an H&I panel leader where we take meetings in to recovery centers and stuff like that. I've actually been the leader. I'm a service junkie. I believe in it so much because, like I said, I tried to hang myself just before, not long before getting into recovery. And this program, in my opinion, is definitely helping to save my life. And how do you repay that? There is no way to repay a life debt except for to do the best you can to carry the message, to try to share your experience, strength, and hope with others, to give that hug to the newcomer. And being fair, there's a few people that have been annoyed by my hugs, but there's also quite a few that said straight up at first they were annoyed by my hugs, but now they'll feel left out if I don't come up and hug them when they come in a meeting. You know what I mean? So,
I hear you.
So because I do, when you get that hug from me, it's full of love, and it's not, inappropriate love. It's just because you're a human being, and because we come from the same background of addiction, and you deserve recovery as well. And I want you to feel welcome, so maybe you'll come back. Because recovery, the way I look at it, this is just my personal take on it. We're the front lines of addiction. Every time somebody comes in, we're the trauma team. We're the foxhole. We're the safe place from all the missiles and all the ugliness. And every person that comes into a meeting has the chance at the miracle of recovery. And I will do whatever I can to keep them in the middle of our herd, as they say, or to have them want to come back and hang out with people in recovery, because every time we go back out, we're a candidate for death. And a lot of people will quote, they say, I say this first, but no, a lot of my sayings I got from old timers. But it is a fact. I am tired of stepping over the dead bodies to get to my own recovery. And I've had people that I've hugged the next day are dead that have called me, tried to get experience from states away. A week later, they're dead. And I've had people that slept on my couch trying to help them find recovery that are dead. Oh, and speaking of which, that 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom house we had, I turned into a recovery home and opened it and gave a lot of free rooms. It wasn't about making money like a lot of those places are, and free couch space, because I never got those opportunities. And so I wanted, we had the room.
And I'm certain people were treated with respect and dignity that they deserve.
Yeah. And no matter, and I had people coming out of prison stay there. I've had murderers stay there, because we are not who we were.
Nope.
If you're truly in recovery, you have the right to be looked at for today, not your past, because every single person on the planet has done something in their past they're not proud of. I don't care if it's a minor thing or a major thing, but in my opinion, and I'm very opinionated, every single person on the planet has a closet that they don't want certain things shown out of. Everybody deserves a chance at the miracle of recovery, and a chance to go someplace and feel like it's okay. They don't have to have that stigma of what they were 2 days ago. They can have a chance to breathe, to rest, to eat a good meal. I love to cook, by the way, and I've fed so many people in recovery. When the pandemic first hit, I made 144 dozen, not 144 cookies, 144 dozen homemade chocolate chip oatmeal cookies, peanut butter chip too as well, all mixed together.
Shit, that's a lot of cookies,
and
man.
Coconut. Yeah, I put coconut. Well, I took a regular chocolate chip recipe and I add an extra bag of chocolate chips. Or chocolate chip oatmeal cookies, sorry. I take out a cup of the a cup of the oatmeal, and I add a cup and a half of coconut because it doesn't swell like the oatmeal. And I put it all together and sometimes instead of just one extra bag of chocolate chips, I'll throw in some peanut butter chips in there too, and a little cinnamon or whatever. They were good cookies.
Oh, wow, man.
Needless to say, they all got eaten, and not just by me. I ate my share, but, recovery is a blessing, and it's not only saved my life, but my brother's 4 years clean.
Right on.
As of May, if he'll be 5 years clean.
Right
and it's one of the few things in this life that he is actually the big brother to me. And
right on. That's very cool, man. I got to be honest, that's very cool.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And he's my half brother, same mom, different dad. And he's the only one I have on the planet. I didn't give some background on my mom. She is Israeli, adopted into America, which makes me Israeli by race, but not by whatever. I don't go by the Jewish religion per se.
Well, yeah, you're not an Israeli citizen, right?
Yeah, I'm not an Israeli citizen. I have, because I was born in America, but I have a yarmulke that she made me that is somewhere in my storage. So which also my belly button birthday is also Adolf Hitler's birthday. It's just, there's so many.
Hitler was born on 420?
Yeah.
Dude, that is unreal. And if that bastard didn't try to ruin everything.
And his mom was Jewish. So guess what that means? By the Israeli race, it has nothing to do with the dad. By the bloodline, the mother carries you for 9 months. So if the mom's a full Jew and the dad's a full German, it doesn't matter. You're a full Jew. If the mom's half Jew and half Lithuanian and your dad's full German, you're half Jew and half Lithuanian by the Jewish race, by their thing, because the mother nurtures you, whatever, while you're in the womb.
So is that Judaic law kind of thing? Is that what it is?
Yeah. It's their belief, and how they go by hereditary or whatever.
Okay.
But the point I was trying to get to is that's one of the other reasons I grew up in foster care and group homes and boys ranches is race hate killed my whole family tree. My mom's parents were killed. She came over in 1944 at the tail end of the Hitler thing. So I have no aunts, uncles, nieces, nephews. And so when you say no support structure, I'm very blessed that I have a higher power because I am here today. I've been through gang shootings. I've been stabbed. I've got so many different scars. I already told you on my body. I shouldn't be here many times over, but I am. And my higher power had a purpose for me. And I feel in recovery, I found my purpose is to not to share my testimony, but to hear others, to listen to others, and to make sure that's such a big thing, in my opinion, in recovery, is feeling heard, feeling acknowledged, feeling like you're important and you're somebody too. So again, anybody that listens to this podcast, from the bottom of my heart, I truly, truly hope you hear something that helps you in whatever recovery journey you're in, and helps you to stay clean and helps you to heal. And if you ever meet me, I love you, and you'll get a hug from me, and you'll fucking have no question about it that I give a shit. So
you'll also get some really good cookies by the sounds of it. Like,
Well, and I still cook a lot for my brother. I post my stuff on Facebook all the time.
Right on.
I can get with you later and give you my Facebook.
For sure. Are you cool if do you want to give people your email, man, if they want to reach out to you? Because like somebody might hear your story and be like, dude, I want to talk to this guy. And I don't have to be in between.
I don't want to break protocol. Right. I didn't know what your protocol was, and I was trying real hard. My name is John Secker, Seckar. I can give out my phone number too. I mean,
I wouldn't do your phone number on here just in case. I would hate for you to be accosted by so like, who knows? The internet's a strange place, man. How about just the email, John? That would be great.
Right. My email is my first and last name, which is John, John, Seckar, Seckar @gmail.com.
Perfect.
And I'm just, man, this podcast, like, thank you. Like the emotional roller coaster I went over, and you didn't make me feel guilty about jumping all over the place. You actually let me tell my story as best I could, better than I've ever got to tell it. Oh, and I do have my life story, because it's hard for me to write down. I've actually said way more probably here in this podcast than is written, but it is on Facebook, and it's Born American in Un-America.
Okay.
It doesn't have my name attached to it, because, you know, some of the things I mentioned, and I put a lot of the newspaper articles in there. Oh, and one little backup. I wanted to say.
So, hey, how could I find that? How can we find the, would you like us to attach the articles to this episode when it comes out?
Sure. You
whatever you have on Facebook?
Yeah, just copy those links.
Okay.
That's perfect. You have every right to, and I appreciate that, because
I don't have to, but I'd like to help support what you're doing, right? Because it's awesome. Right.
It gives validity to what I'm saying, so they know it's not just made up stories. This isn't some guy trying to embellish or whatever. Again, there's enough. And again, I'm going to court November. This next November, when it comes up, I will be going to court in a class action suit for a lot of the J Bar D stuff, and more of that will come out.
Well, I'm really glad that you're doing that, man, and that other people are doing it, because that shit needs to stop.
Amen. And the more that know about it, the more accountability that will come. And I don't care if it's 30 years later, that open season stuff. Some of these people, my first response is they need some fucking open season on their ass. But my second response is that if I can come from a bad background and change my life around and be forgiven for my past, so can they. But accountability and a recompense or a reckoning, whatever you want to call it, should happen and made aware, so it doesn't happen in other places. People start looking behind the doors of foster care and group homes and see what really does happen there.
The key to it, the key is total accountability, like you said, right? That's a big part of what we have to do to recover, right?
Oh, yeah. And your stories, you have your own story, because I, believe it or not, I actually listened to your whole podcast the other day with my friend to get an idea. And you weren't the perfect kid either.
I sure wasn't. I sure fucking wasn't.
Me either.
I was far from it, man. Nope.
And I'm sure addiction did its own number on you, and I'm glad you made it out of it. To look at the platform you're on, and look how many people you're helping, and you've helped
I sure
me
hope
today.
so.
I got to release so much in one, and I jumped all over the place a little bit, but I got to release it in one venue, and hopefully again help somebody else in doing such.
I think for sure you will. I can't see how it wouldn't, John. I wanted to thank you before I forget. I wanted to thank you for giving us a little bit of background on your mom's life, right? Because one of the things people like to do in our day and age is they like to write people off and say that's just a bad person, right? But what you said about your mom coming from Europe, right, where she has no family left, what she went through must have been horrific, right? Like, even though your mom's and the fact that your mom survived and all these things happened, to me, we don't. I understand that doesn't justify it. I am not justifying a thing she did.
Right. No, I got
right?
you, brother.
But what I'm really appreciative that you gave us a whole picture of her, right? Because she didn't just become abusive overnight for no reason, right?
Oh no, she told me her dad put a gun to her mother's head, didn't pull the trigger. And this is her adoptive dad. She was adopted into America. Put a gun to her mother's head. Her sister tried to drown her, and her dad did it repeatedly, say, "I'm going to kill you," and things like that. And so she went through plenty of her own abuse, and in LA involved with gangs herself a little bit, or tried to be. But no.
So thank you for that, though, because it's important. Yeah, exactly. Right. Hurt people, man. You said it. Thank you so much, John, for coming on. Is there anything else you want to talk about, man? Because I think this has been awesome.
Sorry.
No, are you kidding?
I can't believe
blown
it was
away,
over an hour already. And I'm so thankful. Thank you. Just thank you. I'm thankful to the person that led me to you, and I'm thankful to tell my story. And to any that reach out, please feel free to reach out. Oh, I do want to say, where I live, there's no internet down on my property. That's why I'm actually parked up here at the top of my property. So I may not be able to answer the emails that I get for a while. It may take me a minute. But I try super hard to answer those that text me, call me, email me, because it's part of reaching out. And if we don't answer the person reaching out, then what do we got a business of saying, please reach out for? You know what I mean?
You got
it. And they help me when they reach out. You helped me by giving me this venue to share.
Well, you've helped me. I can't even describe it. I'm probably going to get off here. I have to process this for a bit. You've definitely helped me, man, for sure.
Well, and again, 85%. One little story I did want to say that I didn't say was I ended up in Reno, Nevada, in jail at one point because of addiction. I actually got a ride from a dealer and was helping him sell some dope, and ended up he had stolen the vehicle and had over an ounce of meth, over an ounce of cocaine, paraphernalia, all that. So I ended up with 7 felonies and looking at a long time in prison. Well, because I was only the passenger and I had that law enforcement background and I had no real record, they let me off with diversion. But for my 111 days in jail, they let another inmate throw sandwich baggies full of fecal matter, shit, stool, whatever you want to call it, underneath my cell. And they'd splat it at the base of the door, so it'd go all over me, all over the cell. So it got to where every time they came out for tier time, I had to put my towel in front of the door and stand on it. And I made 11 paragraphs in the Reno Gazette Journal. That links on my life story as well. So when I say these things, and there's proof. So for 111 days, I had shit thrown on me, and I sued the police, and I won.
Nice.
Out of court settlement. They didn't want to go. I had so much proof. They didn't want it to go all the way to court. So they settled out of court for 10 grand. And my lawyer ended up cutting down his percentage from 50 to 25 if I went ahead and took the settlement, and which I did. But I made 11 paragraphs in my picture in the Reno Gazette Journal. So when I say I've had a shitty life, I had to throw that in there.
I love it, man. That's the best way to end, man.